The snow didn't fall gently on Kepler 9c. It came down like shards, fine, crystalline blades that cut through skin and breath alike. Winds howled through the shattered ruins of the once great city of Haldris, now a field of scorched metal, broken towers, and twisted glass. Most had fled the war zones years ago, but she hadn't. She crawled from the wreckage of a downed shuttle, naked, shivering, and burned. Her species was not built for cold. Her bones, hollow and flexible, ached as she dragged herself through the snow. She didn't know her name anymore. Names had belonged to another life. Before the escape, before the flames. Now all she had was breath. And even that came in weak, misty gasps. Jace Morin was a man who had made peace with solitude. He lived in a reinforced outpost, half buried under ice and rock, far from any network. A former combat engineer turned off-grid homesteader, he'd left humanity's cities behind after the Vorta rebellions. Too many screams. Too many graves. Now his days were quiet. Hunt, mend, fuel, sleep. Until he saw the body. At first, he thought it was a trick of the storm, a broken drone maybe. But then it moved. Crawled. Fell. He ran. She didn't resist when he lifted her into his arms. She couldn't. Her skin was blue-gray, nearly translucent. Her limbs were trembling, and her eyes, enormous and silver, were vacant with shock. Not human, but not a threat either. He wrapped her in the thickest blanket he had and carried her inside. The heater hissed to life. Snow melted in her tangled white hair. She lay curled on the floor, barely conscious. Jace placed water near her lips. Her hand moved, just barely, grasping the cup like a child would. When she finally spoke, her voice was dry and broken. "You human?" He nodded. "Yeah." "You'll kill me?" "No." "Why?" Jace stared into those wide alien eyes and didn't have an answer. She slept for 2 days straight. Jace stayed close, but not too close. He kept the fire lit, cooked simple meals, and made sure she had warmth, water, and silence. On the third morning, she finally sat up. Wrapped in an oversized jacket, she looked almost small, like someone who had once been beautiful but now bore the weight of unspeakable ruin. "My name," she said, "was Lyriel." Jace didn't ask what happened. She told him anyway. "I was a diplomatic courier. Shot down by slavers. The others didn't survive the crash." He listened. "I ran. Lost everything. They hunted me." She paused. Her voice cracked. "They took my clothes, my tools, my voice. I only had the snow." Jace didn't reach out. He just said, "You're safe now." And somehow that was enough. Over the next week, Lyriel regained her strength. She began to walk, then clean, then help with small repairs. She didn't know how to use most of Jace's tools, but she was a quick learner. Her fingers were delicate, precise. Sometimes she smiled. One night, she stared at the stars through the viewport. "Do you miss them?" she asked. "Who?" "Your people." Jace shrugged. "Sometimes. But peace is hard to find among them." She nodded. "My people never stop moving. We drift, negotiate, bargain. But there's no stillness." She turned to him. "You gave me stillness." There was no formal moment when they became more than strangers. It began with laughter, small, uncertain chuckles that turned into shared jokes over burnt rations or frozen pipes. Then came the comfort of routine. 2 mugs at breakfast. A shared blanket at night. One morning, she touched his hand. Just for a second. Neither pulled away. The first real danger came on the 12th night. A patrol drone, one of the old military AI scouts, pinged the outpost. Jace swore. He hadn't triggered any beacons. But the drone's pattern was too precise. "They're looking for something," he muttered. "Or someone," Lyriel said, her face pale. Jace powered down the outpost's external lights. The heating dropped. The cabin dimmed. They waited in darkness, holding their breath as the red light scanned the snowdrift outside. Then it passed. But Jace saw the fear in her eyes. "They might come back," she whispered. "Then we'll be ready." She looked at him then, not like an alien looking at a human, but like a woman looking at the first safety she had ever known. A month passed. Lyriel began building again. Small tech, memory devices, even a miniature greenhouse using Jace's scrap materials. Her presence turned the bunker into a home. "You're different," she said one evening, sitting beside him at the fire. "How so?" "You didn't take advantage. When I was weak. When I had nothing. No one does that." Jace stared into the flames. "I've done things I'm not proud of," he said. "But I'm not that man anymore." She leaned on his shoulder, silent. Then softly, "You gave me more than shelter, Jace." "What did I give?" "A heart to rest in." Spring on Kepler. 9C was hardly warmer, but the sun broke through once a day. Lyriel stood outside in the icy light, her pale hair glowing, her face turned to the breeze. Jace watched from the doorway. "Thinking of leaving?" he asked gently. She turned. "I was." He nodded, jaw tight. She stepped closer. "But then I realized something." "What's that?" "I'm not homeless anymore." She took his hand and pressed it to her chest. "You live here," she said. "And now so do I." The war would rage elsewhere. Patrols would return, and the world would keep turning in blood and ruin. But in one quiet corner of a frozen planet, a once naked refugee and a once hardened soldier sat side by side beneath a starlit sky. No longer alone. No longer lost. Just together. In a shelter made of wood and love.